Alright, so welcome to our first episode of our Swift tutorial. Today we will be going over some real basic stuff like constants, variables, operators, and strings. So what you're going to need first is Xcode 10. You can download that right off the App Store. Note that you can only run this on a Mac, so if you run a Windows computer, you're probably not going to be able to do anything Xcode on Xcode, which is what we're going to be using. So once you download and install and launch Xcode, you'll be greeted with this screen. Go ahead and click Get Started with a Playground. Then save it to somewhere on your. First, make sure you're clicking macOS, not iOS, tvOS, just macOS, and make sure you're using a blank template. Now you're gonna have to save it somewhere on your drive. So let's just save it to as episode 1, and let's save it to Swift Tutorials and create. So after you do that, you'll be greeted with this lovely screen here. This is Xcode. It's very cool. Now. Okay, so now let's first activate our console. So what you're going to want to do is go up here, click View, hover over Debug area, and click Activate Console. This will allow us to see the console, which will be very useful for the rest of the series. We will also want to have to go down here, hold this, and click Automatically Run. Now this will allow it to run the code while we're doing it, and it'll save us a lot of headaches in the future, so make sure you do that. Alright, so let's quickly get rid of this first. So first you'll see this, it says import Cocoa. Now this is just the framework for everything to work, so for now you don't really have to worry about this, just leave this thing alone. So first let's learn what a variable is. So in order to understand this, I hope you all have a general understanding of linear algebra. It's pretty easy. So let's just do var. Now that's just a command that tells the computer that we are declaring a new variable. Now next thing you're gonna have to write is the name of the variable. So let's just do x. So that's the name of our variable. So now what we did was we created a variable named x. Now the fancy word for this is we declared a variable named x. Now what you're going to want to do is hit space and press equals. Now this is actually an assignment operator. We'll learn that in just a sec. And after the assignment operator, you just want to write a general value. So we'll write 10. So that's going to be our value. So what this did was we told the computer that we are going to create a new variable named x, and using this it will take the value on the right side, which is 10, and just glue it to x. So think of it as like you're in math class, so then just x equals 10. All we did was just tell the computer that x equals 10. Alright, so that's what we did there. From then on you can do a bunch of from then on we can do a bunch of stuff. So for example, we could do x and now plus equals 5. Now what does this do? This basically what we did here, this is another operator, and what we did here was just it added 5 and assigned it to x. So now if we go here and do, let's say, print x, now what did it do? It printed out x into our console. So now x is equal to 15, right? So yeah, now you might be confused, what the heck is print? So what print is it basically prints something to a console, and we put parentheses here, and inside the parentheses we put something that we want to print it to. So the value we want to print it to. So we just put x, that's our value, right? Real simple. So we hit space again. There are a bunch of other operators you can use too. So for example, we could be x minus equals 13. Alright. So then we could just do print x again, and now what will we see? So it's 50, it's 2, okay, because 50 minus 2. Now I forgot to mention this, but normally when you run code, it goes top to bottom, so you can see that clearly in our console here. So it goes import Cocoa, then we do, first we did was variable, we told the computer, variable x equals 10, okay, so x equals 10, now we told it to add 5 to x, and now make sure that that value is now equal, x is now equal to that value, okay? And we print it out to the console, so here it is. Now we did the same thing here, except now it's subtract 13 from x, and with that new value, assign it to x. So now x, and we print it out to the console, and now x is equal to 2. It's some real cool stuff. Now, yeah, so it goes top to bottom. Top to bottom. So for example, if we took this and moved it to down here, the code is not going to work. Why? Because it does not know what the heck x is. So if we wait here, yeah, so now this thing is so now this does not work. Why? Because it goes top to bottom. So it went import this, right? This is a framework, right? And it went x plus, so it said add the value of x to 5 and make that the new value of x. But the thing is, it doesn't even know that x exists. So that's why the computer is totally confused, and now we have a ton of errors here. So that's why make sure that you always declare your variables before you actually use them, okay? Because it goes top to bottom. There's some other cool, you can also do multiplication, for example, so you can do x times equal to 5, for example, and then just print it out. So we printed that out. So now when we go to our console, we have plus 10 plus 5, 15, right? And then 10 minus 13, that's 2, right? And then times 5, that's 10, right? Pretty easy. Okay, so now we can go here. We can also do that with division, so it could be like x divided by or equal to 5. Okay, we should be able to get 2. Yep, we should get 2. Nice. Now there's another thing called a modus operator, so we could do x, we could do print, and we could do x percentage sign 3. Okay, now what does this do? So it prints out to the console the value of x, and the modus sign is actually the remainder. So what it does is it divides x by 3 and then displays the remainder. So what was our initial value? 2. Now 2 divided by 3 has a remainder of 2. So that's what we got here. Now that's pretty cool, right? Nice. We can also add variables together. So we can declare another variable down here. It could be like variable y is equal to 10 or 20. Okay, and now we can add x and y. So x, so we could do print x plus y. Now if we look over here, it should print out the value of x, which should be I believe it was 2, and the value of y, which should be 20. Okay, so we should be able to get 20 down in our console. 22, I mean 22. Oh my god! So we got 22 down here. It's pretty cool, right? So we got all that. We can also, there's another thing called a string, which is basically just a set of words. It's like a sentence, okay? Just words. Do they have any mathematical like value, any numerical value? No, they don't. So it could be like variable z is equal to. Now for strings, you normally want to write them inside quotation marks. This allows us to inside the quotation marks. This lets the computer know that these are just words, okay? They don't have an actual value. So we could do variable z equals test string, or this is a string. Right, now everything inside a quotation mark is just treated as not as a value, but something as a string. Okay, so this is just a set of words. So now we could do print Z. Yep, print Z. And now we wait here, and wow, print it out. This is a string. That's nice. Now we might be thinking, can we add X to Z? Well, let's try that out. So if we do print X plus Z. Now let's wait for our thing to load. And what does it come up with? Wow, there are some errors down here. Binary operator plus cannot be applied to operands with type int and string. So basically, this literally just told us why it's not working, because you can't add a number to a set of words. Because let's think we're in math class again. Let's say if someone told you to add 10 and the word sunny together, okay? That's not possible. You can't come up with something. 10 plus sunny does not work. It's impossible. So that's why the computer is like, we can't do this. So this is something important to remember. You cannot add strings and integers. Okay, that just simply does not work. Yeah. Now about the quotations. Let's say, what if we remove this? It's not going to work at all. Not at all. So see, that does not work because it does not treat this as a string. It thinks that we're assigning a bunch of values here, but it does not know what the heck these are. Like, we never declared any of these, right? So this is why we always put them in quotation marks. Also, I forgot to mention, for variables, there are limits to what you can name a variable. So for example, we cannot name it, we cannot put spaces in it, so we cannot be like, this is a variable. We cannot do that. So if we let that load, we come up with some errors here, and yeah, so now it's very confused because, well, just as a general rule of thumb, don't put spaces in your variables. They just don't work out very well, okay? So just don't do that. If you are going to try and put spaces, just replace the spaces with like underscores or something. You also cannot name a variable name as another command. So if we put var, it's going to get confused. It does not know what the heck. So it does not know whether to execute this or execute this, okay? So it gets very confused, so don't do that either. Just name it something else. So let's just fix this again. So these are our yeah. So we can also interpolate strings. So let's do var string 2 is equal to, and this is another string. So what did we do? We just declared a variable named string2 and assigned it to the value. This is another string. Okay, that's nice. Now we can actually add these two together. So we can do you can actually combine strings. You can interpolate them. Now how you do this is you put this parentheses and now the value. So it's z. Oh yeah, and you're gonna have to want to do this in quotations so they know that this is a string, not some other value. Z. This is a string. And now we can do boop parentheses string 2. Nice. Now if we wait here, wait for that to all print out, you should come up with this is a string. So what it did here was we put this in quotations, so now it's a string, and now this this thing here, I forgot what it's called. It's like a backtick, whatever, backslash. So what it did here was we put backslash, and then inside parentheses. So what a backslash does is, I think it on the next symbol it treats it like a well, for a backslash and the parentheses together. Now on the inside we can put the variable name, and now it'll know to that instead of just literally putting in the console backslash parentheses z, it'll actually know that this is a value we're trying to put inside. So now you can just do, so now what it does is instead of just putting backslash parentheses z, it actually takes the value of z and just inserts it in here. So it's like, so the value of c, so as a string we put the value of c and the value of string 2 together into one string. Now that's pretty nice. Now another thing you can do is if we Another thing we can do is we can actually explicitly state whether a variable will be an integer value or a string or a boolean. We'll get into booleans later, but for now we'll just focus on integers and strings. So we can explicitly tell it whether we're trying to put a string or an integer value, which is useful. So for now, if we go up here, the computer just assumes on its own that we're trying to make a integer, that this is an integer and not a string, right? And down here, the computer just assumes on its own that this is going to be a string and not an integer, right? Now we can actually just explicitly state it. So it could be var w w, and then we can put these double those colons, and we can do var w int. Now what did this do? Now what this did was it's explicitly told the computer that w is an integer value. So this is pretty useful, and now we can actually just hit space. Now what we did here was we declared that our variable w is an integer and that it exists. Now you may be wondering, how does this work? Why isn't there any value? Well, this is called an uninitialized string. Not string, a value. This is uninitialized, which means this does not actually have a value. It's just, all we did was just tell the computer that it existed. Fortunately, we can still assign it later to something, so it could be like w equals 5. Alright, now if we would do print w, now if we print that out, just wait for that to run, we should come up with 5. So what we did here is that we declared it, but it was not initialized. Down here we actually initialized it with a value, and now we printed it out. So that's pretty cool. And now I believe I went through everything I plan to go over this episode. It's just pretty cool. So yeah, so this is our first episode. Hopefully I'll make some more episodes. Hopefully on the next episode we'll be able to see how if else statements work, switch, for loops, and that kind of stuff. So those types of stuff normally gives it like a flow. So for now, all we did here was just declare some stuff. All we did was just declare that this is a string or this is an integer. Next class we'll get into some deeper stuff. So yeah, but